Welcome back to a very special, a supercharged edition of the Deep Dive. I am so pumped for today's session. We're doing something a little different, and honestly, it's completely essential. This is a full summary for UPSC, focused by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
And we are diving headfirst into the green heart of the Indian subcontinent.
Natural vegetation.
It is about time we did. You know, so often people pick up their geography books, especially the NCERTs, and they see Chapter 5, Natural Vegetation.
Right.
And they think, okay, great, a list of trees.
Yeah, exactly. I'll memorize a few Latin names, maybe learn where teak grows, and then move on.
That's the trap.
It feels like a vocabulary test.
Right.
But, and here's the hook for everyone listening, natural vegetation is not just about memorizing tree names.
Not at all.
It is, and I'd argue this, it's the single most efficient key to unlocking high-scoring geography questions. The ones that most aspirants get wrong.
It's the thermometer of the climate. I love that you say that.
It really is. If you truly understand the vegetation, you get the rainfall, the soil, the temperature of a region without even, looking at a weather map.
Precisely. It connects all the dots. It bridges that gap between the physical stuff, the rocks, the rain, the sun, and the living world. And, more importantly for everyone listening, it connects the NCERT textbook directly to the preliminary and the mains questions. It's a super high-yield topic, but only if you know how to read the patterns.
And that is our mission today. We are going to decode those patterns. But before we get totally lost in the jungle, I do have a humble request for you guys. If you're enjoying this deep dive and you want to keep this engine running, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
It makes a huge difference.
It really does. And if you are capable, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It genuinely allows us to keep bringing this kind of super useful content to you.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, distilling this amount of source material, the articles, research, NCERTs, all the PYQs, it takes a lot of resource.
Yeah.
Every little bit of support counts, and, it helps us maintain the quality.
Absolutely. So a huge shout out to all of our current supporters. You guys are the real MVPs, seriously.
Thank you.
And hey, while you're listening, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment. We read them all, and they really do help us improve. Also, quick logistical note. The free notes, complete with practice PYQs, that's previous year questions, they are available right now on our Telegram public channel.
But if you want the full experience, and I mean everything,
Right.
access to all the videos in this series at once, plus the premium organized notes, that's where you'll find the detailed breakdowns, extra PYQs, and even model mains answers.
Then you'll want to join the private Telegram library.
Exactly.
Just DM us on the Telegram public channel to join that. Okay, housekeeping done. Let's set the stage. We are cracking open the NCERT Class 11 Geography book, India, Physical Environment, and we are laser-focused on Chapter 5, Natural Vegetation. But we are not just reading the book, are we?
No, reading is passive. We are analyzing. We are decoding.
Decoding, I like that.
Our mission is to decode this complex relationship between climate, soil, and vegetation. We're going to take the theory from the NCERT and map it directly, one-to-one, to actual UPSC prelims and mains questions from the last decade.
So you can see why certain topics keep showing up.
Exactly.
I love that. Turning the boring textbook stuff into a puzzle we can actually solve.
Right.
So let's start at the very foundation. Segment 1, the climate-vegetation link.
Right. To even begin to understand vegetation, you have to get your head around the concept of a biome.
A biome. Now, the source material defines this in a very specific way. It's not just a forest, right?
Correct. A biome is a plant and animal community, and it covers a large geographical area. But the crucial part is the driver, what determines it. It's determined mainly by the climate, specifically rainfall, temperature, humidity, and then the soil conditions. It's the sum total of all those factors expressing themselves as life.
So it's kind of like a recipe. You change the amount of water, which is the rainfall or the oven setting, the temperature, and you get a completely different cake. Or in this case, a completely different kind of forest.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. And the engine driving all of this is, of course, the sun.
Right.
The sources highlight something fascinating about the energy flow here. The sun is the basic source of energy for all life. We know that.
Yeah.
But here's a statistic from the tech that just stops you in your tracks.
Okay, hit me with it.
Out of the total solar insolation that reaches the Earth's surface, only about 0.1% is fixed in photosynthesis.
Wait, hold on a second. 0.1% only.
Just 0.1%.
That seems incredibly inefficient for a planet that is just teeming with life. You look outside, you see green everywhere.
It seems small, doesn't it? But that tiny, tiny fraction powers the entire biosphere. That's the energy that initiates all life processes.
Wow.
The plants, the producers, they manufacture food, and then the consumers eat the plants. It's the very foundation of the food web. And in that process, vegetation plays this absolutely critical role in the oxygen cycle.
Right, the oxygen cycle. We always hear that phrase, save the rainforest, save the lungs of the earth. But I was looking at a source from a 2025 mock question that was in our packet, and it threw a bit of a curveball here about where our oxygen actually comes from.
Yes, that was a great comparison point, a fantastic one. While forests are crucial, we so often overlook the oceans.
Right.
That mock question pointed out that marine phytoplankton, these are microscopic plants in the ocean, they actually produce about 50% of the world's oxygen.
That is wild, 50%. So the rainforests are obviously important,
Right.
but the ocean is literally doing half the work. It kind of puts things in perspective when we talk about conservation.
It absolutely does. It helps to have that broader view.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to the Indian landmass, the type of vegetation you get is strictly, and I mean strictly, dictated by climate classification.
Okay.
The NCERT uses Koppen's classification as a guide.
I remember Koppen from General Geography. It's all the letters, A, B, C, D, E. It can feel like a secret code if you don't know what you're looking at.
It is a code.
Yeah.
But if you crack it, you know the vegetation almost immediately. For example, Group A is tropical.
Tropical. So hot.
High temperature, high rain. This is where you find your tropical wet climate coded as F and your monsoon climates coded as F.
And naturally, that's where all the heavy, dense forests are, the ones we picture when we think of a jungle.
Correct. Then you move to Group B dry climates. Here, evaporation actually exceeds precipitation. The water budget is in a deficit.
So it's losing more water than it's getting.
Exactly. So you get STIP, which is coded BS, or full-blown desert BW.
And as we move up the alphabet, C, D, E, are we generally moving away from the equator or, like, up in altitude?
Generally, yes. C, D, and E represent temperate, cold snow forest, and polar climates, respectively. But the real insight for the listener here, and this is so critical for UPSC map questions, is that you simply cannot understand Indian vegetation without overlaying it on the map of the Indian monsoon. India is essentially a mix of these tropical A and dry B climates with that distinct band of mountain climate up in the north.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You can't just force a Group A forest piece into a Group B climate slot on the map. Nature just, it doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And that brings us to the actual forests themselves.
Let's zoom in on that Group A category then. Segment 2, tropical forests. These are the real heavy hitters of the Indian landscape.
Specifically, we need to start with tropical evergreen forests.
The green hell, as some of the old explorers used to call it.
A bit dramatic, maybe, but it's accurate in terms of the sheer density.
Right.
These are found in the tropical wet climate. That's the APE zone. We're talking about regions near the equator, and in India, the absolute wettest parts of the country.
So what are the specific conditions listed in the source text for these forests to thrive?
You need incredibly heavy rainfall. We're talking usually above 250 centimeters annually, and high temperatures. The source material specifies a max temp of around 30 degrees C and a minimum of around 20 degrees C.
So it's a hothouse.
It's a hothouse. It's a greenhouse that never turns off. And because it's so wet and so warm, the characteristics are really distinct. A dense, multi-layered canopy, huge biodiversity, and crucially, no distinct dry season.
No dry season, meaning the trees don't all shed their leaves at once.
Exactly. In a deciduous forest, autumn comes and boom, everything goes bare. It's synchronized.
Mm-hmm.
In an evergreen forest, trees shed leaves at different times. One tree might be shedding while its neighbor is flowering and another is fruiting. So the forest as a whole always looks green.
Now, let's connect this to a PYQ. There was a question back in 2015 that asked you to identify states associated with tropical wet evergreen forests.
Yes, this is where the theory hits the real world. The question asked to identify states with these forests. The options usually try to trick people, but the key locations you have to remember are Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and the western slopes of the western Ghats.
Mizoram and Arunachal makes sense. The northeast is just incredibly wet.
It is. Mizoram is almost synonymous with dense vegetation. And when we talk about the western Ghats, it is vital to remember it is only the windward side. the side facing the Arabian Sea that gets that full monsoon blast.
Right, because once those monsoon clouds hit the mountains and dump all that rain on the west side, there's basically nothing left for the east side.
Exactly. That rain shadow effect is so powerful, it changes the vegetation completely, sometimes within just a few kilometers. You go from lush evergreen to dry deciduous forest very, very quickly.
Okay, so if evergreen is the VIP section with those really exclusive entry requirements, lots of rain, lots of heat, the next one is more like general admission. Let's talk about tropical deciduous forests.
The monsoon forest. This is by far the most widespread forest type in India. If you look out a train window, almost anywhere in central India, UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, this is likely what you were seeing. It corresponds to the Am and Aw climates in Koppen's system.
And there is a specific tree that is kind of the king of this forest. I'm looking at another PYQ from 2015, this one about teak.
Ah, yes, the teak question, a classic. In India, in which one of the following types of forests is teak, a dominant tree species.
And the options were things like tropical moist deciduous, tropical rainforest, the usual suspects.
And the answer, the very specific answer, is tropical moist deciduous forest. This is a crucial distinction. We divide deciduous forests into moist and dry based on the amount of rainfall they get.
Okay.
And teak loves that sweet spot. Not a desert, but not a full-blown rainforest either. It's the commercial king of the moist deciduous belt. It's incredibly valuable timber.
So if you see a question about teak, your brain should immediately go to moist deciduous.
Got it.
That's it. I feel like teak is one of those woods we see in furniture all the time, so it makes sense that it's so widespread.
It's a high-value timber, which is exactly why understanding its distribution matters economically and for forest management, too.
Now let's travel upwards. Let's go to the Himalayas. This is where things get really, really interesting because the rules completely change.
The rules of latitude apply to altitude.
I love that phrase. Altitude mimics latitude. Can you just unpack that a little for the listener?
Of course. Think about traveling from the equator up to the North Pole. As you move north, it gets colder, right? And the vegetation changes. First, you have your tropical forests. Then you get into temperate forests with oaks and maples. Then you hit the pine or coniferous forests. And finally, you get to the tundra or alpine vegetation where trees can't grow.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, just imagine climbing a very tall mountain like in the Himalayas. As you go up, the temperature drops. So climbing the Himalayas is effectively like making that journey from the equator to the pole, but in a compressed vertical distance.
So you see all those vegetation types in bands as you go up the mountain.
Precisely. You might start with deciduous at the foothills, move into wet temperate forests, then through pine forests, and eventually you'll reach the alpine meadows above the tree line.
There was a question in 2014 that perfectly tested this mental map. It asked, if you travel through the Himalayas, you are likely to see which of the following plants naturally growing there. The options were 1, oak, 2, rhododendron, and 3, sandalwood.
This is a classic elimination technique question. It's designed to reward logical thinking over just, rote memorization of plant lists.
Right. So let's walk through the logic. Oak.
Oak, yes.
Absolutely.
Oak is a classic temperate species you find in the Himalayan belt. You find oaks in Europe, you find them in North America, you find them in the Himalayas. It signifies that cooler, temperate band.
Okay, check. What about rhododendron?
Definitely. If you go to Sikkim or Uttarakhand in the spring, the hills are just on fire with red and pink rhododendron flowers. It is iconic Himalayan flora.
Okay, so we've got oak and rhododendron, and then there is sandalwood.
Sandalwood. Sandalwood album. Just stop and think. Where do you hear about sandalwood? Sandalwood smugglers, sandalwood soap. Think about the movie Pushpa or the real-life stories of Veerapan. Where does that all take place?
It's the south. The red soil? Karnataka.
Exactly. It's Karnataka. It's Tamil Nadu. It is a tropical deciduous species of the peninsula. You will absolutely not find sandalwood growing naturally next to a snow leopard in the Himalayas.
So you just eliminate option 3 and boom, you have your answer. That is so satisfying.
It is. And it shows that you don't need to memorize every single tree in the Himalayas. You just need to know what doesn't belong there. The examiner put sandalwood on the list because it sounds Indian and exotic, and they're hoping you'll just lump everything together.
Okay, moving on to segment 3. We are leaving the forests for a bit and getting our feet wet. Specialized ecosystems, we're talking wetlands and mangroves.
This is a very high-yield area. UPSC absolutely loves wetlands because they intersect with international treaties, conservation, and current environmental crises.
Let's start with a term that sounds kind of scary. The Montreux record.
It does sound like a spy file, doesn't it? The Montreux record.
Yeah.
But it is essentially the critical list, or you could say the ICU, of the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands.
There was a PYQ in 2014 asking what it implies.
And the definition is very specific. It's a list of wetlands of international importance where changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring, or are likely to occur due to human interference.
Human interference being the key phrase there.
That is the absolute key. It's not just this lake is drying up because of a drought. It's humans are polluting this lake or draining it or building too close to it. It's a formal call to action for the government to step in and fix the problem.
Now, speaking of lakes and wetlands, there was a matching question, I think in 2014, and it came up again in 2020, that caused a lot of headaches. It asks you to match wetlands with the rivers that feed them.
This is where detail is king. And this is where our simplified UPSC approach really helps, because the textbooks sometimes just gloss over the exact confluence points. Let's break down the big ones. First, Harik Wetlands.
That one's in Punjab.
Right. It's a man-made wetland, and it's formed at the confluence of the Beas and Satluj rivers. That one is usually correctly matched in the exams. It's the source for the Indira Gandhi Canal.
Okay, that one's straightforward. Then there's Keila-Deogana National Park, which is also known as Haratpur. The PYQ matched it with the confluence of the Banas and Chambal rivers.
And that is a trap, a massive, massive trap.
Really? Why?
Keila-Deo is not at the confluence of the Banas and Chambal.
But those are the big rivers in that part of Rajasthan.
They are, which is why it sounds plausible. That's what makes it a good trap. But Keila-Deo is actually fed artificially, but historically it's associated with the much smaller Gambhir and Bangunga rivers. The Banas and Chambal are major rivers in the region, but they do not feed that wetland directly in that confluence manner. If you mark Banas and Chambal, you lose the marks.
Wow, that is sneaky. Okay, what about Kolaroo Lake? The question linked it to the Musi and Krishna.
Another trap. The Musi River flows into the Krishna. Yes, that's correct, near Hyderabad.
But
Kolaroo Lake is a large freshwater lake located in the delta region between the Godavari and Krishna rivers. It's not at the confluence of the Musi and Krishna. It sits in the natural depression between those two massive deltas.
So you really, really need to know your river maps. You can't just know the state the lake is in.
You need the hydrology.
Yeah.
You need to be able to visualize where the water is actually coming from.
Okay, here's one of my favorite places in the world, even though I've only ever seen it in pictures. The floating park.
Keibul, Lamjao.
Yes. This is a 2015 PYQ, Keibul Lamjao National Park.
It's the only floating national park in the world. It's located on Loktak Lake in Manipur.
And the floating part refers to phumdis, right? What are those exactly?
Phumdis are these incredible mats of decomposing biomass. It's vegetation, soil, and organic matter all packed together that literally float on the lake's surface. They're like natural rafts.
So they're thick enough to walk on, to support a whole park.
Oh, yes. They're thick enough to walk on, and they're thick enough to support a unique national park.
And they are home to the Sangai.
The dancing deer. It's an endangered subspecies of Eld's deer that's found nowhere else on Earth.
Why do they call it the dancing deer?
Well, it's not because they like disco. It's because their hooves are specially adapted to walk on this spongy, floating ground. When they walk, the ground sways and moves, and they have to constantly adjust their balance, which makes them look like they are gracefully dancing or bobbing.
Okay, listener takeaway. Keibul Lamjao equals Loktak Lake equals floating vegetation fundus equals the dancing deer. Just memorize that entire chain.
That's a guaranteed mark if it shows up on the paper.
Let's move to the coast now. Mangroves.
Nature's shield. Mangroves are these incredible salt-tolerant forests that you find in the intertidal zones. They play a massive, massive role in coastal protection against cyclones and tsunamis.
There was a comparison question in 2015. It asked which of the following regions have coral reefs. The options were Andaman and Nicobar, Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, and Sundarbans.
This is a great odd one out question. Andaman. Yes, absolutely beautiful corals. Gulf of Kutch. Yes. Gulf of Mannar.
Yeah.
Yes. Sundarbans. No.
Why not? Why are there no corals in the biggest mangrove delta in the world?
It's all about the water. Sundarbans is dominated by silt, mud, and a constant flow of fresh water mixing with salt water from the Ganges-Brahmaputra river system.
And corals don't like that.
Corals are very fussy creatures. They need clear, sunlit, saline water. The muddy, silty waters of a massive river delta would just choke the coral polyps. They can't breathe, they can't feed, they can't photosynthesize.
That makes perfect sense. So mud kills corals, but mangroves love mud.
Precisely. There are two entirely different coastal defense systems. And linking this to the mains specifically a 2025 mock question that's included in the premium notes, there's a huge focus on how climate change and sea level rise are threatening these coastal vegetations.
I can imagine.
If the sea level rises, the mangroves can't adapt quickly enough, and they drown. And if the mangroves drown, the coast behind them loses its natural buffer against cyclones.
It's a domino effect. If the mangroves go, the cities and villages behind them are next.
Which is why this kind of conservation isn't just about saving trees. It's about saving human lives and infrastructure.
All right, let's move to segment 4. Biodiversity hotspots and protected areas.
We hear that term hotspot thrown around a lot. This restaurant's a hotspot. But in geography and ecology, it has a very strict definition.
It's not just a cool place to hang out.
No. To be classified as a biodiversity hotspot, a region needs two things. First, it has to have high species richness. That means lots and lots of different plants and animals.
Okay.
And second, it has to have high endemism.
And endemism means species that are found there and absolutely nowhere else on Earth.
Correct. And usually, there's a third unspoken criteria. The region is also under significant threat. In India, the two major hotspots identified in our sources, and you could see this in figure 16.5 of the textbook, are the Western Ghats and the Eastern Himalayas.
Now let's drill down into biosphere reserves. This is where UPSC really tests if you have actually looked at a map in detail. There was a brutal question in 2019 about the Agassiz Biosphere Reserve.
Oh, that was a tough one. It didn't just ask where is it or which state is it in. It listed a bunch of specific wildlife sanctuaries and asked which ones are located inside the Agassiz Reserve.
Let me read the list that turned out to be the correct answer. Nayar, Papara, Shindurni Wildlife Sanctuaries, and the Calicut Mundantherai Tiger Reserve.
So why does UPSC ask this? They aren't trying to torture you. Well, maybe just a little bit.
It feels like it sometimes.
But mostly, they are testing if you understand the geography of conservation. Agassiz sits right on the border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu.
Oh, okay, so it's a transboundary reserve.
Exactly. Nayar, Papara, and Shindurni. Those are in Kerala. Calicut Mundantherai is a huge tiger reserve in Tamil Nadu. The Biosphere Reserve bridges them all. It encompasses the entire southern tip of the Western Ghats.
So they want you to see the landscape as a single, continuous ecosystem, not just something divided up by state lines on a political map.
Exactly. Animals don't check Google Maps for state borders. An elephant doesn't know it's crossing from Kerala into Tamil Nadu. The Biosphere Reserve reflects that ecological reality.
We see this pattern with other parks too, right? I remember a PYQ from 2013 linking Silent Valley National Park to the Kunthi River in the Nilgiris.
And Corbett National Park is linked to the Ramganga, Kaziranga to the Brahmaputra.
So what's the takeaway here?
The takeaway is this. Don't just memorize the name of the park, memorize the river that flows through it. That river is the lifeline of the entire ecosystem. If the river dies, the park dies. UPSC knows this, and they test that critical connection.
Got it. One more point on protected areas. Critical tiger habitats. There was a question in 2020 about which one has the largest area.
This one stumped a lot of people. The options were Corbett, Ranthambore, Sundarbans, and Nagarjuna Sagar Swisalam.
I feel like everyone automatically assumes Sundarbans because it's so famous, or maybe Corbett because it's the oldest.
But the answer is Nagarjuna Sagar Swisalam in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It is absolutely massive. It sprawls across the Nillamala Hills. In terms of pure critical tiger habitat area, it beats the others by a significant margin.
So size matters. It's easy to overlook the parks in Andhra because they don't get as much media attention as, say, Ranthambore, but ecologically they are giants.
Exactly.
Okay, segment 5. We've talked about the places. Now let's talk about the residents. Flora and fauna, the who's who of the Indian wild.
And again, we aren't just memorizing names here. We're looking for the specific habitat links. Every animal tells you something important about the forest it lives in.
Let's start with the lion-tailed macaque. This was a 2013 PYQ.
A key species. The question asked for its natural habitat. The answer you need to know is the tropical evergreen forests of the Western Ghats.
Specifically Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu.
Yes, but the evergreen part is what's crucial. You won't find them in the dry, deciduous forests. They need that dense, unbroken canopy and the year-round supply of fruit. They're arboreal. They live their entire lives in the trees. If the canopy's broken, they can't survive.
Then there is the great Indian hornbill. Is it a similar story?
Very similar. They're large birds. They need very tall trees, a high canopy to nest in and to launch from. They're heavy birds. They can't just take off from a small shrub.
Right.
So they are excellent indicators of a healthy, old, tall, moist forest. If you see a hornbill, you know the forest is in good shape.
What about the dugong, the sea cow?
A reference to marine mammals. Dugongs are herbivores. They eat seagrass. So you find them in shallow, protected coastal waters like the Gulf of Mannar or Palk Bay. They're strictly marine, gentle giants just grazing on the seafloor.
And the red panda, I saw an image of one in the sources.
The source image highlights them perfectly. They are found in the Himalayan temperate forests, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. They need that bamboo undergrowth in cooler climates. They are the cute, furry ambassadors of the high-altitude forests.
Moving to aquatic life, there was a tricky matching game in a 2019 PYQ. Let's start with the blue-finned mahseer.
It was matched with the Kaveri River. The mahseer is a famous game fish, often called the tiger of the water. It loves fast-flowing, clean river water. It really struggles in polluted or stagnant water.
Okay, and the Irrawaddy dolphin.
It matched with Chilika Lake. This is important. Irrawaddy dolphins are found in brackish water estuaries and large coastal lagoons like Chilika. This is different from the Gangetic dolphin, which is a strictly freshwater species.
And the rusty spotted cat.
Eastern Ghats. It's one of the smallest wildcats in the entire world. It's incredibly elusive.
So the expert insight here is that these matching questions are designed to test your knowledge of specific ecoregions, river versus estuary versus dry forest.
That's it exactly. If you know the Irrawaddy dolphin likes brackish water, you instantly link it to Chilika, not the Upper Ganga. You don't need to be a marine biologist. You just need to know the basic habitat preference.
Now, let's take a slightly more scientific turn. Bio-fertilizers. This came up in a 2013 PYQ.
This connects our topic of vegetation directly to soil health. The question listed a few organisms, agaricus, nosoc, spirogyra, and it asked which one is used as a biofertilizer.
And the answer?
Is nostoc. It's a type of cyanobacteria, what we used to call blue-green algae. It has the amazing ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen directly into the soil, making it available for plants to use. It's nature's own little fertilizer factory.
Speaking of nitrogen, there was another question about what adds nitrogen to the soil. The options were 1, excretion of urea by animals, 2, burning of coal, and 3, death of vegetation.
This is a great logic check. Let's break it down. Urea from animals.
Yes, that's fertilizer. Farmers use urea all the time.
Check. Death of vegetation.
Yes, when plants decompose, the nutrients go back into the soil, the circle of life.
Check. But burning of coal.
My gut says no on that one.
And your gut is right. Burning coal releases nitrogen oxides, yes, but into the atmosphere. It causes pollution and acid rain. It does not directly add nitrogen to the soil in a beneficial way like a fertilizer. In fact, the acid rain it causes can harm the soil chemistry.
So 1 and 3 are correct. Burning coal is the odd one out. It's an anthropogenic pollutant, not part of the biological cycle.
Correct.
Okay, segment 6, physical environment challenges and mains integration. We're pivoting to the heavy lifting now, the written exams. This is where we show how all this, trivia connects to the big picture.
This is where we synthesize everything. Let's look at landslides.
There was a mains question asking to bring out the causes for the more frequent occurrence of landslides in the Himalayas as compared to the Western Ghats.
This is a classic comparison question. You have to look at the geology. Why does one mountain range fall down more often than the other?
Well, the Himalayas are young, right, geologically speaking.
They are young, moody, and unstable. They are young-fold mountains. They're still tectonically active. They're still rising. The rocks are mostly sedimentary and very loose. The slopes are incredibly steep. It's a perfect recipe for disaster.
Like a pile of loose gravel.
That's a great way to put it. Whereas the Western Ghats, they are an old, stable block, much harder rocks, tectonically far more stable. They've had millions of years to settle down.
But landslides still happen there. We see it in the news every monsoon, especially in Kerala.
They do, absolutely. But there, the causes are often the combination of very steep slopes and incredibly heavy rainfall. And here is the key anthropogenic factors play a huge role too.
Human factors.
Yes. Deforestation for plantations, for rubber or tea, that destabilizes the soil. But in terms of natural propensity, the Himalayas are far more prone to landslides because of their internal structure.
So broadly speaking, Himalayas equals structural instability. Western Ghats equals rainfall plus human factors.
That's a very good summary. And how does vegetation, our main topic, fit into this?
The roots hold the soil together.
Exactly. Deforestation in the Himalayas just exacerbates this incredible instability. You remove the tree roots, and that loose sedimentary rock has absolutely nothing holding it together when the heavy rain comes. The forest is the glue that holds the mountain together.
Let's talk about soil erosion and conservation.
The source PYQ links a problem of soil erosion to three things: terrace cultivation,
which is a solution,
deforestation, which is a cause,
and tropical climate,
which is an intensifier.
How does the tropical climate intensify it?
Heavy, intense rainfall leading to leaching.
And leaching leads us directly to laterite soils, another 2013 PYQ.
Laterite comes from the Latin word for brick. These soils are basically what happens when you wash all the good stuff out of the dirt over millennia.
The question asked about their characteristics.
They're generally red. Why? Because the silica and other minerals have been washed away, leached out by the heavy rain. What's left behind is iron and aluminum. They oxidize and they turn the soil that classic rust red color.
So they're rich in iron, but poor in the things plants need.
Exactly. Poor in nitrogen, poor in potash. And where do we find them? Regions with high temperature and high rainfall. The PYQ statement said, Rajasthan and UP. That is completely false. You do not get intense leaching in dry Rajasthan.
So where do you find them?
You find laterite in the western Ghats, particularly Kerala and Odisha and parts of the northeast.
So if you see laterite and Rajasthan in the same sentence, just mark it wrong.
Immediately. It's a geographical contradiction.
All right, segment 7, the human impact in the future. We can't really talk about nature without talking about us and how we are either messing it up or sometimes trying to fix it.
Let's look at carbon, the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility.
This popped up in a 2015 PYQ. Sounds very official.
It's a global partnership, and its main job is to provide financial aid for something called REDD+.
REDD+, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation.
Right. The significance here is the financial angle. It helps developing countries build systems for sustainable forest management. It's essentially paying countries to keep their trees standing.
How so?
Because those trees store carbon. If you cut them down, you release that carbon into the atmosphere. If you keep them standing, you get support and financial incentives. It's about monetizing conservation.
It's incentivizing conservation. And finally, a term we see in the news constantly these days, eco-sensitive zones, or ESZs.
The 2014 PYQ clarified a major misconception here. A lot of people think these zones are declared under the Wildlife Protection Act.
But they aren't.
No, they are declared under the Environment Protection Act, 1986.
That is a crucial distinction. Why does that matter?
It changes the jurisdiction and the scope of what can be regulated. And more importantly, what is their purpose? Is it to kick everyone out and stop all human activity?
That's always the fear, isn't it?
It is, but it's a misconception. The purpose is not to prohibit all human activity. It's to regulate it. They're designed to act as shock absorbers or buffer zones around protected areas.
So some things are allowed.
Yes. Agriculture is usually allowed. Organic farming is actually encouraged. But you can't build a massive polluting factory or a new mega resort right next to a tiger reserve.
So it's a buffer zone to try and balance development and ecology.
Exactly. It's trying to soften that hard edge between the wilderness and the city.
Which brings us to the end of our deep dive. That was a lot. Let's try and recap the key takeaways.
Okay. Number 1, vegetation is the thermometer of the climate. Use those Koppen codes FF and B to predict the forest type.
Number 2, don't just learn the name of the park. Learn the river that feeds it and its flagship species, like the Sangai or the lion-tailed macaque.
And number 3, wetlands and mangroves are high-priority topics. Know the difference between a confluence and a delta, and remember why coral needs clear water and mangroves need mud.
And for my final provocative thought, I want to leave you with the concept of sacred groves. We didn't touch on it deeply, but it's implied in our country's conservation traditions. We have this constant conflict between development, like the sugar mills in South India that were mentioned in the mains questions, and ecology.
And that raises a really interesting question. Can a modern policy tool, like an eco-sensitive zone, ever truly replace the traditional community-led protection of a sacred grove? Or do we desperately need both to survive the coming water crisis?
Something to chew on.
Indeed.
Did this deep dive help you connect the dots? I really hope so. If it did, make sure you subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP.
And please join our Patreon if you can. Your support really truly does keep the lights on and allows us to keep the content flowing. We can't do this without you.
And don't forget, go to the Telegram public channel for your free notes and PYQs right now. DM us there to join the private library for all the premium organized content, including the detailed notes and model answers we discussed today.
Like, share, and comment. Let us know what topic we should decode next.
See you in the next deep dive.